Hi again, everyone. Gary Digital Williams here on the Boxing on the Beltway Podcast Network. And the Boxing on the Beltway Podcast Network can be heard on Spreaker, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. We're on Podcast Addicts, Spotify. We're also on Google Podcasts, and we're on TuneIn as well. We'll also be heard on my Twitter page, which is at Digital25. We're also on the Boxing on the Beltway Podcast Network page on Facebook, and you can be heard on my page, Gary Williams, on YouTube. So you can hear the Boxing on the Beltway Podcast Network in many places. Now this week, be a little shorter podcast, a little longer podcast than was last week. Not as long, but we're going to have a couple of recaps of some bouts that took place this past weekend. Also, want to update the fall Beltway boxing schedule. A number of bouts have come in. I almost didn't do a podcast this week because we didn't get a whole lot of information. But as soon as I thought that, of course, a whole bunch of information came in at the last minute. So we're fine. We're going to go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to do a little different tribute this week. Tribute to a number of fallen players that participate in another sport, a sport that I grew up watching as a kid. And I want to pay a little tribute to them because they were outstanding people as well as the great legendary players that they were. So we're going to talk about that a little bit as well this week. The Boxing on the Beltway Podcast Network brought to you as always by Real-Time Pain Relief. From boxers to ballerinas, for shoulder pain and muscle strain, everything between, Boxing on the Beltway recommends Real-Time Pain Relief, the natural, plant-based, safe, fast, and effective ointment. Go to freepainoffer.com, buy $10 worth of Real-Time Pain Relief, get a free $10 tube of Real-Time Pain Relief, now endorsed by two-time heavyweight champion Big George Foreman. So try his knockout formula for Real-Time Pain Relief. Rub it on. The pain is gone in real time. And by DeborahSpears.com. She has great weight loss tips, great jewelry, and great training methods. All at Deborah, Debra Spears.com. Well, this past week, couple of Beltway boxers were on a card at the MGM Grand Hotel Bubble in Las Vegas, Nevada. The bouts were on ESPN Plus, and one of the bouts included undefeated Baltimore, Maryland super welterweight Lorenzo Truck Simpson. He won an 8-round unanimous decision over Sonny Primetime Duversonet of Avon Park, Florida. Now, Simpson was in control pretty much for the bulk of the contest. He did have one hiccup, though. That was in the 5th round. Duversonet threw a wild left hook. It forced Simpson off balance and made his right glove touch the canvas. And, of course, the referee had to call a knockdown because the glove had touched the canvas. Simpson wasn't hurt at all. He went on to win bout by scores of 78-73 twice and 79-73. So Simpson remains undefeated. He's 9-0, 5 KOs. And Duversonet loses for the very first time. He's 11-1-2 with 8 KOs. Now, also on that card, early on in the card, Oxon Hill, Maryland super welterweight Akeem Action Jackson, because his father's Action Jackson, so he's Action Jackson. He was stopped by the debuting Kashad Elliott of Plainfield, New Jersey, in the first round of a bout held at the same location, MGM Grand. Now, Kashad Jackson is a 10-time national amateur champion. He's an outstanding boxer. He knocked Jackson down with body shots twice. First, an Elliott left hook sent Jackson to one knee 40 seconds into the contest, and more body shots forced Jackson to take another knee later in the round. And this time, Jackson didn't get up. Referee Mike Ortega counted him out at 1:15 of the first round. So Jackson's record now drops to 1-2, 1 KO. He is scheduled for about sometime in November back in Rock Hill, South Carolina. No word yet of whether or not he's going to take that bout. Will be able to compete in that bout due to the knockout loss he suffered in Las Vegas. So we shall see what's going on there. So those are the recaps. Good win for Lorenzo Simpson. Tough loss for Akeem Jackson. Now, the fall months. If we get into the fall months, this means big bouts for a number of Beltway boxers coming up. And unfortunately, none of them will be here. Because I noticed there's a card scheduled for sometime in either late October or November in Virginia. But no word when that bout's ever going to take place. The cards are going to take place. And really, I think only 2 Beltway boxers, and those boxers have relocated to another location, the Bell Twins. They're scheduled to be on the card, but I don't even know if the card's going to take place. I haven't heard anything, so we'll keep you posted on that. Now, of course, we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks, and we'll continue to talk about the big bouts coming up. Saturday, October 24th, for Malik Iceman Hawkins. He takes on Sabril Brownie Matias of Fajardo, Puerto Rico. Of course, Malik Hawkins from Baltimore. That'll take place at Mohegan Sun Casino in Uncasville, Connecticut. Now, hopefully this week, by the way, you got a chance to pick up a Baltimore Sun, or you saw it on Baltimore Sun's website, the nice article that they did on Malik Hawkins this past week. Hawkins 18-0, 11 KOs. Matias is 15-1, all 15 of his wins by KO. This bout will be held telecast on Showtime. So that'll be Malik Hawkins 10-round bout against Sabril Brownie Matias, Fajardo, Puerto Rico. We'll talk a little bit more about that coming up in our next podcast. And then, of course, on Saturday, October 31st, the Showtime pay-per-view show that features Gervonta Tank Davis taking on Leo El Terremoto Santa Cruz of Rosemead, California, by way of Mexico. The bout will be for Davis's WBA lightweight title and Santa Cruz's WBA super lightweight title. So, a lot riding on this bout. There's everything around it now. As we record this tonight, Friday, Vasily Lomachenko is to take on Teofimo Lopez on Saturday, October 17th. And that bout and Davis Santa Cruz could have a lot of situations going on with that. Really between 126 and 135 is really, really hot. And, whether or not Davis wants to stay at super lightweight, should he defeat Santa Cruz on October 31st. That bout will be held at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, Texas, with fans in attendance, 20% capacity there. And we're not, if Davis wins that bout, a lot of things can be in play for him. There's talk about the bout against Gary Russell Jr. There's so much going on with that. So we'll see. That'll be interesting. Now, we did do the research, and I asked two people I know who know the Beltway scene about as well as I do. And I asked Discombobulating Jones and Juan Marshall, my partner. And we all came to the conclusion that the last Beltway boxer to headline a pay-per-view was indeed Akeem Rahman when he lost his bout to Lennox Lewis in the rematch there. So Davis becomes the first Beltway boxer in at least, that's almost 20 years right there. 19 years to headline a pay-per-view. Last Beltway boxer to headline a pay-per-view. So it's Gervonta Tank Davis, who headlined the card against Leo Santa Cruz for the WBA super lightweight title and for Davis's WBA lightweight championship. That'll be Saturday, October 31st at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, Texas. Now, there are some other bouts that we should be talking about in the next couple of months. Again, fall really starting to heat up a little bit. Actually, there's one going on tonight as we record this. Randallstown, Maryland super welterweight Cecil McCullough. He returns to action in a 6-round contest against veteran Fidel Monterosa Munoz of Barranquilla, Colombia. That'll be held at the White Sands Treatment Center in Plant City, Florida. McCullough is 22-4, 9 KOs, coming off a big first-round knockout victory over Matias Garcia. That was on June 27th, also at the White Sands Treatment Center. Munoz is 39, 22-1, 31 KOs. He's looking to break a 4-bout losing streak where he's been knocked out in all 4 of those contests. Now, Munoz will face a Beltway boxer for the second time in his career. You may remember he lost by 5th round TKO to Brandon Quarles. That was in May of 2018. It took place at the MGM National Harbor Casino in Oxon Hill, Maryland. So Cecil McCullough, best wishes to him as he takes on Fidel Monterosa Munoz. That'll be tonight, Friday, October 16th, at the White Sands Treatment Center in Plant City, Florida. Now, in November, a couple of big bouts coming up in November. And one of the things is going to be kind of huge, actually. And it's kind of weird how this came about. And I really don't understand the details of how it came about. But be as it may. November 21st, Saturday, November 21st, at the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the sexy Albanian Yank Plana. He'll be in an 8-round contest against Brandon B. Rob Robinson of Upper Darby, Pennsylvania. Once again, it'll be held at the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Plana is 8-2-1, 4 KOs, looking to bounce back from his 8-round unanimous decision loss to Maidel Sando. That was on September 23rd in Los Angeles, California. That bout was televised on, I believe it was Showtime. And I think the interesting situation about that bout was that Plana's style, which is very, very unorthodox. He has his hands down low. He uses his distance pretty well. Again, if you remember watching Nick Kisner compete, they are very similar in that regard, in their style of boxing. And Sando coming in was 9-0 going into the bout. He was undefeated, and I think that was a contest where Sando had seen a lot of these things, and he wasn't overwhelmed by the unorthodox style of Yank Plana. That could be the case with Brandon Robinson as well. Brandon Robinson's 15-2, 10 KOs. He hasn't fought the competition Sando has. But his last bout was a second round TKO win over veteran Josue Obando, who's fought a number of Beltway boxers over the years. That took place March 7th at the 2300 Arena, and Robinson has a 4-bout winning streak. So I don't know if Robinson has seen the type of competition that Sando had, and that may be a little bit more of an advantage for Plana this time around. We'll have to wait and see. Once again, that'll be on Saturday, November 21st, 2300 Arena, 8-round contest. Yank Plana taking on Brandon Robinson, and that'll be if not the main event, it'll be the co-feature on the Kings Promotions card that'll take place on that day. Then on Friday, November 27th, there'll be 2 Beltway boxers that'll be on a card at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Hollywood, Florida. And one of the boxers, and this is a little bit of a surprise, and it's kind of weird how this bout came about, but I actually kind of hedged it a little bit last week when I talked about Buddy Harris and his bravery. I did say there's maybe some big things for Buddy and his son Dusty. This is what I was talking about. Dusty Hernandez Harrison out of Washington, D.C., being a 10-round non-title against undefeated WBO middleweight champion Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade of Providence, Rhode Island. Now, this bout is a non-title bout primarily because the bout will be fought at 168 pounds, which is the super middleweight limit. Now, Harrison is 34-0-1, 20 KOs. He last fought on February 8th when he scored a second round knockout over Les Sherrington. That was at Tyson's Playground in Vienna, Virginia. And according to his father, Dusty has put on a lot of weight since that bout. And he had to work a little bit to get down to 168 pounds for this bout November 27th. So he has a little bit over a month to do it. So he should be able to do it. So we shall see. Once again, Harrison 34-0-1, 20 KOs. Andrade, by the way, 29-0, 18 KOs. He made the third defense of his WBO middleweight title. Knocked out Luke Keeler in the 9th round on January 30th in Miami, Florida. This will be Andrade's second contest against a Beltway boxer. Andrade had defeated Alantez Fox by 12-round unanimous decision in October 2017 at Turning Stone Casino in Verona, New York. And in that bout, Fox fought most of that bout with a torn rotator cuff in his left shoulder. And even though he had that injury, he still completed the bout, number one, and he still managed to knock down Andrade in the 7th round. So he made the bout closer than it probably should have been. But Andrade would go on to win a unanimous decision. So this one could be interesting. This is definitely Harrison's most experienced and most heralded foe that he's fought in his career. And Harrison, who's been on a slow path, to say the very least, in his career, this could elevate him very much if he could somehow beat Demetrius Andrade. It's going to be a tough job, no question about that. That'll be on Friday, November 27th at Seminole Hard Rock Hotel Casino in Hollywood, Florida. Now, also on that card, Columbia, Maryland super middleweight Ashton Dagoon Sykes. He'll be in the contest against undefeated Alexis Espino of Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, right now, there's no word on how long this bout's scheduled for. We don't know if it's 4 rounds or 6 rounds. Both guys have fought both distances. And Sykes right now is a little bit on a roll because he is 5-3, 1 KO, currently riding a 3-bout winning streak, including a 4-round unanimous decision win over previously undefeated Isaiah Hart. That was on March 7th in Cheswick, Pennsylvania. Now, Espino's 6-0, 4 KOs, coming off a 6-round unanimous decision win over Del Vecchio Savage on February 29th in Frisco, Texas. Now, if you remember a couple weeks ago, I did a part of my podcast was highlighting those out-of-town boxers who come into the Beltway and performed very well. The Vecchio Savage, I really had a long time to really highlight some of these folks. He could have made the list because he has done very well here in the Beltway. He's fought very well. He's actually he beat Francisco Bustos a couple years ago. So he's one of those boxers that gives a good show each and every time he comes out. And we'll see. He went the distance with Espino. So that could be very interesting to see what happens in that bout. That'll be, once again, on Friday, November 27th at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel Casino in Hollywood, Florida. As Buddy Harrison said, there goes Thanksgiving. As he posted it up on his Facebook page, he said, there goes Thanksgiving. It'll be the day after Thanksgiving when Harrison meets up with Demetrius Andrade. So we'll see what happens. So a lot of big bouts coming up in the tail end of 2020, what has been an exhausting year. No question about that. And one of the things that's making an exhausting year is the many people, famous people, and even, very personal folks who have passed on. Some from the COVID, others, passing on because of other situations, natural causes, anything like that. And a lot of the famous people who have passed on all were involved in a sport that I guess when I was a kid, it was the first sport that really got me excited about sports in general. Even before boxing came into my life, the first sport that I can remember following and enjoying to watch was baseball. Now, in Washington, D.C., in the late 60s, I'm one of the last generation to remember the Washington Senators, watching the Washington Senators. And the Washington Senators, for those who don't know, were this version of the Senators was the expansion team that lasted until 1971 when he moved on to Texas, and they're now the Texas Rangers. But, watching Frank Howard and Bill Gogolewski and Dick Bosman and just some of the great names, even though, as always, Washington was first in war, first in peace, and last in the American League. So then from there, I became an Orioles fan for many years. My only World Series was games 1 and 2 of the 1971 World Series between the Baltimore Orioles and the Pittsburgh Pirates. Took place at Old Memorial Stadium in Baltimore. And I got a chance to see great players like, not only players that the Orioles had, like Brooks and Frank Robinson, Jim Palmer, who, by the way, celebrated a birthday. He's 75 years old this year. And, Brooks and Frank Robinson, Boog Powell, Dave McNally, Mike Cuellar, great players. And, of course, Pittsburgh had Willie Stargell, Roberto Clemente, so many great, Steve Blass and Doc Ellis, and such great players. And so I really was a baseball fan growing up. And in Washington, it was easy to be one because the Washington football team, under their old name, really hadn't been established as a powerhouse until the early 70s when George Allen took over. The coach at the time when I started kind of watching football was the late Vincent Lombardi, who coached the Washington football team for 1 year before he passed away. And George Allen, the Overhill Gang, and the rest is history. We didn't have a basketball team because the Bullets, the then Baltimore Bullets, were in Baltimore, Maryland. And it wasn't until around 1973 or 4 where they started playing some of the home games at Cole Fieldhouse at the University of Maryland before the Capitol Center was built in 1973. And we didn't have a hockey team at all until 1974. So we were very limited at that time pro-wise here in Washington, D.C. Particularly Baltimore had the baseball team and the basketball team, but, they were kind of limited too. But definitely in D.C. area, we were definitely limited as far as pro sports were concerned at that time. But watching baseball because of the Senators, I was really into baseball. And these last few weeks, we've seen a number of baseball legends pass on. Guys that I remember growing up and watching on the baseball game of the week on Saturdays on NBC, later on Monday Night Baseball on ABC and NBC. It was just great to see these great players. And we've lost people like Tom Seaver, Tom Terrific, who was the hero of the '69 Miracle Mets when they beat Baltimore in the World Series. We've lost Lou Brock and Bob Gibson, who were cornerstones of the Cardinals in the mid to late 60s. Lou Brock, one of the greatest base stealers of all time. Bob Gibson, definitely one of the greatest pitchers of all time as well, along with Tom Seaver. For older folks, we've lost Whitey Ford. Whitey Ford was before my time, but I remember seeing video of him, his whole career as a Yankee, tremendous. Was a tremendous pitcher for the Yankees, chairman of the board, they used to call him. We lost early on in the year, we lost guys like Al Kaline, who was from Baltimore, but of course spent his career in Detroit and played on the great Detroit Tiger teams. And we lost one of the more colorful baseball players in history, Jay Johnstone, who was an outstanding player for a number of teams in Major League Baseball. And then just a couple weeks ago, we lost the man that many consider to be the greatest second baseman of all time. And I think he's right up there. I can't think of too many others better than what he did in baseball. Of course, one of the great baseball teams of all time was the Big Red Machine of the Cincinnati Reds in the mid-1970s. And they had great players. My goodness, they had Pete Rose, they had Johnny Bench, they had Tony Perez, Dave Concepcion, Cesar Geronimo. They had just outstanding players. But the engine and the man who drove kept the Big Red Machine chugging along through those years was their second baseman, Joe Morgan. Joe Morgan was just tremendous. I mean, anything you needed him to do, he would do. You need a base hit at the clutch time, Joe Morgan would do that. You need a great defensive play, he could do that. Needed a home run, he had it. Steal base, he could do it. I mean, Johnny Bench called him the greatest baseball player he ever saw. And Joe Morgan passed away recently. And again, it was just part of my childhood, just gone. Because you love watching Joe Morgan when you get out at bat and you see him flap that left elbow. You hear him just flap it. And it was just, it was just a great team. Just great team. You love to watch great teams. And of course, Game 6 of the 1975 World Series, even though the Reds lost that game, that was the Carlton Fisk home run, where he's guiding the ball over the fence and past the foul pole, or as one of the Wolfies called it, the fair pole. But anyway, the Reds would come back and win that series, Game 7, and win the 76 World Series, back-to-back World Series. Joe Morgan was MVP both years. He was a 10-time Gold Glover, 10-time All-Star, 5-time Gold Glover, 5-time Gold Glover, Golden Glover. So he played offense, he played defense. He was phenomenal. He really was. And also, one of the best ex-players I ever saw in his role as a commentator. He and John Miller, who I think is the greatest baseball play-by-play man I've ever seen. John Miller, who for a number of years was the play-by-play man of the Baltimore Orioles. The last time the Orioles won the World Series in 1983, he was the play-by-play man on radio. And he later went on to the San Francisco Giants. I think he still works for the Giants. But in many years, he did ESPN Sunday Night Baseball with Joe Morgan. And they were tremendous together. Oh, they were great. And they would do, I think they did the championship games in the World Series on radio, for ESPN radio. And they were phenomenal. They really were. And he was definitely one of the best to do that as well, especially in the ex-player position. So I was really saddened by the passing of Joe Morgan, as I have been for all. I mean, I got a chance to see Lou Brock. I had a chance to see the last years of Bob Gibson. It just, and we also, by the way, lost Don Lawson on January 1st. Don Lawson of the Yankees, the only man to pitch a perfect game in the World Series. And, I know time passages, and as the song says, time passages, and we can't stop time. Father Time is indeed undefeated, but to see these legends pass away all around the same time, these happened within weeks of each other, that a lot of these guys passed away. And to see that, it was just sad. And it adds to what has been a very, very sad and very tough year for everybody here. I mean, everybody in this country, the pandemic, of course, for those who don't know, I lost my father-in-law to the pandemic. He was 1 week shy of 100 years old. And, and it's just been very tough. And to see some of these great baseball players, great legends, and pass away during that time period. Not all of them from COVID. In fact, I don't think any of them from COVID now I think about it. But just to see it all come this year, and all so many other people we've lost this year. Gale Sayers, of course, Road Warrior Animal, Joe Laurinaitis, we lost this year. And that's just some. And to see it all happen at the time, just very, very tough. So I just want to pay a little tribute to the memory of some of these great baseball players who were, who were people that I enjoyed watching on a regular basis. Every week I'd go see them. I didn't see a lot of National League ball at the time because we weren't National League City at the time. But, watch them on TV every week and just seeing how great they were. It's just hard to let go sometimes. It really is. But thank you for indulging me in that. That'll do it for another edition of the Boxing on Beltway Podcast Network. Once again, the Boxing on Beltway Podcast Network is brought to you by Real Time Pain Relief. You go to freepainoffer.com, buy $10 worth of Real Time Pain Relief. You get a free $10 tube of Real Time Pain Relief, now endorsed by two-time world heavyweight champion Big George Foreman. Rub it on. The pain is gone in real time. And by DeborahSpears.com. She has great weight loss tips, great jewelry, great training methods at Deborah, Debra Spears.com. Next week, we'll do a complete preview of the Malik Hawkins fight as well as the Gervonta Davis, Leo Santa Cruz fight. That and more coming up next week. Until then, thanks for joining us. I'm Gary Digital Williams. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Boxing on Beltway Podcast Network. Always remember, keep supporting the best boxing in the world. The boxing along the Beltway. Thanks for listening. Take care.